Welcome to another episode of the Fit Growth Machine podcast. I'm Brian Roisentul, your host, and today I have a great guest. His name is Teddy Owen, and he helps small businesses grow on Shopify with the help of his team at AIsoft. But before talking to him, let me tell you that this episode is brought to you by BSR Digital. At BSR Digital, we help e-commerce brands that want to scale their business to a next level through Facebook, Instagram, and Google Ads. BSR Digital knows that most e-commerce brands want to grow their sales, but they lack a solid plan and professional team to help them succeed. That's why BSR Digital offers strategic plans, implementation, optimization, and account audits to help more than 1,000 brands like yours grow their businesses and surpass their competitors. To learn more, you can visit us at bsrdigital.com, and you can also email us at hello@bsrdigital.com. Now, as promised, I have Teddy here with me. Hey, man, thanks for being here on the show.
Hey, Brian, thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. So why don't you start by telling the audience more about your story?
Yeah, sure. So as you said, I'm the founder and CEO of AIsoft, and we are a Shopify development agency. So we do Shopify design and development. So we don't do other sorts of websites, and we don't do any other sorts of e-commerce platforms. We totally specialize exclusively in Shopify. So a little bit, I guess, about my background. So basically in college, I ran a small business for a little bit there, helping students move in and out of their dorms. And then I ended up going into finance for a bit, but I probably after about a year of doing that, I totally missed being able to wear all these different hats running a small business. So I decided to leave and start a tech startup, a SaaS platform with a friend of mine from college who also studied computer science with me there. And so we built this thing over about 2 years, and we really got in the trenches. And it was the first time that we built a real world software product. And it was something to help college investment clubs collaboratively invest together. And it was cool. And we learned a ton, and we got some paying customers. But at the end of the day, we were like, there's just no way that we're just looking at the math and the size of the market and what we're doing. We're like, this is not going to pay our bills. And we bootstrapped the whole thing. So we're like, okay, this was a good learning experience. But this isn't going to be a business. So we decided to stop that. He went on to work for Amazon, and I decided to start another business. And so the business I started was getting into services. So taking that experience I had gained from creating this cloud platform from scratch and started offering development services to folks as a freelancer. And I did that for a while, working on things from like mobile apps to web apps. We did a little bit of Oculus VR stuff too. We did some Alexa skill stuff. So we did all these different things. But then over time, I started adding other developers and honing in on e-commerce. And as I went along, I just found that there was this massive ecosystem of folks, merchants who were using Shopify, who needed help. And it seemed like a fantastic place to sort of focus in on and grow a business around. So that's what we've been focused on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can tell you that in the agency, all the e-commerce brands we help, probably 99% of them use Shopify. So yeah, is it like the number one or otherwise the number two, right? But I don't know if it's above or not WooCommerce, but yeah, it's widely used.
Yeah.
Awesome. So definitely, I mean, yeah, of course you help e-commerce brands, and I do too. And there's some crazy stuff going on in the world, right, for many businesses. But what's your take on the current, I don't know, e-commerce landscape?
Yeah, so I think, it's interesting from, I guess, my perspective or where we sit in design and development. So the sort of things that we're dealing with our clients, the merchants that we're talking with, are probably a bit different than maybe yourself or some others who spend more time on the marketing side, or depending on what you're spending time on. So I know that folks have been seeing a lot of stuff with regards to, ad spend, and having just more expensive costs when it comes to their Facebook ads and things of that nature. And this kind of goes all the way back to that, iOS update that folks talked about. And that's stuff that I know a lot of merchants have been struggling with and trying to deal with. It's not something that we tend to work on or deal with as much, or folks don't come to us with those problems as much because we're not focused on the marketing side of things. So that's one of these things. It's like a lot of people are talking about it. It's a big issue in the space that we don't see as often. For us, I would say that most of the stuff we see is not necessarily indicative of a trend that's happening right now. There's some things like we get folks coming to us asking about, hey, can we incorporate NFTs into our store? And that's something we've worked with some folks on before. We've had folks talk about Google Analytics. There's an update with Google Analytics. They're shutting down the old version of analytics. They're moving to GA4, and that has been always a bit difficult with Shopify. Shopify has been kind of slow to get integrated with that. That's the sort of thing that folks come to us with. So those are things that are maybe, trends that we see, things where folks are coming and asking for that stuff. But a lot of the stuff that we see is stuff that I would say is, it goes back to foundations. It's not stuff that is particularly just trending right now. It's stuff like, hey, our store, it doesn't look great. Can you make it look better? Or, hey, our store doesn't seem to be converting very well. Can you help us convert better? Stuff like that is what most of the work we do is.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned NFT and you lost me there. No, I'm just kidding, but I'm all about trying to educate myself on that space, and I've been playing around with some, with I think it's OpenSea. No, is that yeah,
Yeah.
and listening to podcasts on that topic, and it blows my mind. And I know some, like a lot of e-commerce brands are adding NFTs, so I didn't know you got requests to do the same thing. So it's amazing. It's a whole new era, right? Web3.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's definitely been a brave new world.
That's awesome. So yeah. So in a nutshell, probably you can tell, like, I mean, I know that people come to you in different, like, from different perspectives and in different, scenarios. Some people are probably building their website for the first time. Some others are, they want like a refresh or an upgraded version of the website, or many other things. But for those that are new to Shopify, or they have a current e-commerce store, but probably in WooCommerce or in any other platform, why do you think that Shopify is the go-to platform for them?
Yeah, so I think I would say this: if folks come to us and they already have a store on WooCommerce or Magento or BigCommerce, and it's doing fine for them, they feel comfortable managing it, and they're not having any significant issues that need like a ground up rebuild, I don't suggest that they suddenly jump over to Shopify. I think, I'm a big proponent of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I don't tell folks, hey, you gotta, yeah, you've got a great store in WooCommerce, but jump over and start from scratch. I don't recommend that to folks. But what we will see, where I will say that folks probably should switch over, is we sometimes have folks that come to us from either Weebly or Wix or something of that nature, where, it's something where it was easy for them to build their first site and then add some real easy e-commerce features to it and functionality. But they're reaching the limits of the really basic e-commerce functionality of those platforms, and they come to us and say, hey, yeah, we kind of put this together ourselves. Can you help us, grow into a platform that is going to be able to sustain a real growing e-commerce business? And that's where we really transition them over to Shopify. And usually we don't have to do a lot of convincing. Often folks come to us saying, please help us move over to Shopify. But occasionally, if we're talking to folks, we'll explain how basically just all the functionality, and there's so many things, but if you just jump into the admin and explore and experience that, you'll just see how much more powerful it is on Shopify than Wix or Weebly or other similar ones. So we're often getting folks from there, and that's what we'd say to them. But yeah, if folks are already on WooCommerce, we don't. And I would say the reason that folks choose to go on a Shopify as opposed to some of the others, and each has their own strengths, and they work really well. But I'd say Shopify is the simplest to get going with. Some of the trade-offs, you have to pay for your subscription to Shopify, whereas some of the others, it's like similar to WordPress, it's like just hosting, and that's pretty cheap. And so some folks really are attracted to very low initial costs, like less than $10 a month to get going on WooCommerce or something. But Shopify is pretty affordable. I think their lowest entry level, they've got a really light version, but their normal basic version is I think it's around $20 a month or something. They're changing their pricing from time to time, but it's very affordable when it comes to what you're getting from that, and the headaches that are reduced, because a big thing is that it is hosted by Shopify. You don't have to host it yourself. And there's this whole ocean of headaches that can come along with self-hosting that
Yeah,
you get to just totally avoid by jumping on a Shopify.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And even more now that we are entering slowly, but we are entering in like this part of the year of commercial dates. By the time this airs, it will be probably end of August, September, right? And it will be closer even to the commercial dates ahead in Q4. So you better have a great hosting, because otherwise, the day you're expecting all the visits to come to the website and buy probably will be slower, or it will be broken, right? So yeah, I totally agree with that. So I guess there's a process for starting out with the Shopify store. So could you please, like, in a simple way, let's say, break it down, like what's the process for starting with a Shopify store? How long does it take? Of course, there could be a lot of depends, right? But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So I'll start by saying, as you said, it depends. And one of the big factors is, what are you trying to achieve out of the gate? So for some folks, that's going to be, hey, this is my first e-commerce store, and I'm just trying to get something up that works, very basic, and I'm just trying to get that up and done myself. And so you can do that with Shopify. You can take one of the existing like free themes, you can get it up there, change some colors around, add your products, and have something up and working really easily. So that's a boat that some folks fall into, and you can do it like that. And that probably takes folks, you could probably get it up and running in an afternoon, something super basic. Then you've got folks who maybe they're either a more established business, or they have a bigger budget, or they're coming from one of these other platforms and they need something that's a bit more robust. They have a vision, they want it to really speak to their branding, they want it to have a unique flow. They're expecting to do a lot of volume through the store. And so for folks like that, which we tend to work with, we're working with folks who, probably they're not looking to just come and kind of get something up real quick and cheaply. They're coming to us for the expertise to build something really high quality for them. And what we find is generally it's going to take anywhere from like 6 to 11 weeks to go through the process. That's the average. There are definitely cases where there are some cases where it's longer than that. We've had folks come to us with super custom requests, things that are like very outside the norm and very unique. And for those, it's undefined how long those can take, just depending on what it is the ask. But for your kind of standard e-commerce store that folks are looking for, it's usually somewhere in that ballpark.
Awesome. Yeah, I know it depends a lot, and yeah, I totally hear you can take from one afternoon to who knows how long, right? But it depends on many things. And are there any traps to avoid or any mistakes to avoid when it comes to building the Shopify store that people
Yeah.
listening should know about?
Yeah. So I guess I'll start by saying that I don't know if folks necessarily hear this or not from people, but I would say that, so one mistake that I don't think you need to worry about avoiding is for those folks that say, hey, I just want to get something up and running kind of as an MVP or minimum viable product, and kind of me coming from that SaaS startup type world. I love hearing that, and it makes a lot of sense. And so for many folks that are just getting off the ground, that don't really have a budget, and they're debating, do I just kind of get something up there that's not perfect, but it's getting me started? Or do I right out of the gate invest a ton and go full steam without really having experience yet of selling my product and testing product market fit and things like that? I would say for those folks, go ahead with the MVP approach. No need to like jump in too crazy with budget to get going. Whereas, some folks might try to say, no, spend, like, make it beautiful. I would say, so one thing that I don't think is a mistake is folks basically taking that MVP approach if they're just getting off the ground and they don't have a big budget to do. So the mistakes that I see that are being made are the following. This is a big one that we get. We have clients come to us and they come with designs ready to go for us to start developing the Shopify store. And they think that, hey, it makes sense. I'm going to hire a designer to do the designs, and then I'm going to hire a developer to build it. And it seems so intuitive, and I get why they go with that decision. But generally, it ends up in one of two ways. It ends up costing them significantly more than for X level of quality. It costs them like 10x what it would if they hadn't gone that approach. Or they come and the designs can't quite be used. There are reasons why it's probably not the best design and for an e-commerce store. And so this happens pretty frequently where we get someone, they come with design. We do both design and development on our same team. And it's really a really important part of our process, because there are so many ways that we can get to your successful vision. And we know how to leverage and lean on a lot of existing tools, existing components, existing apps, things like that, where we can save incredible amounts of time by doing that and still deliver the look and the features that you're going for. And so basically what ends up happening is, we get some custom design. They say, hey, we want this to be pixel perfect. And we might point out, hey, the review feature on this looks really nice, but if we want to make this review feature from scratch, that might take 500 hours. We could just grab this app that looks great. We can change the colors. It's different. It looks a little different, but we can grab that and get it up and running in 3 hours. So do you want to spend 500 hours making it pixel perfect, a totally custom like review, integration, or do you want to lean on some great existing technology and add your branding to it, but know that, yeah, it's going to look a little different than that design? That's the sort of stuff that really comes out in that design phase. And so we're working collaboratively together with our project managers, our designers, and our developers, such that everyone has a say a bit through the entire process, so we can avoid a situation where design kind of comes out of the oven and it's ready, to be eaten by development. Like it comes out and then the developer goes, oh, this is going to take, 10, 100 times as long because we didn't add these efficiencies here and we didn't lean on this technology here and we didn't do it this way. So that is probably the number one biggest mistake that we see. I would say when you're going to do this, go with a team that can take you through the whole process from planning to design to development to launch. And don't try to break up design and development, because generally you're going to end up spending almost an order of magnitude or more on that than if you went the other approach.
Yeah, I totally agree. Not only because of having these of being a former software developer and working with designers and try to make the websites look like the original designs, all the stuff. But I think that the times of, each team, like the design team, the development team, all the stuff working separately is over. I think we all work in pods, or we work together, right? When we think something in the agency, we do the same thing. It's like we do different things that you do, but we work in the same ways. Like if we need to create an ad creative or an ad copy or something like that, the developer is the media buyer is included in the process, right? It's not like because the same thing happens to us in different things. Funny stuff, because it's the same thing regardless of the area you're working on. So I don't know, the client comes with a lot of designs or a lot of copy that are not compliant with Google or Facebook ads, right? So it's like you need to change the whole thing. Or typically this is great for an email, but not for an ad. Or typically this doesn't, whatever, right? Comply with the, I don't know, mainly in Google with the length of each, I don't know, title, headline, description, whatever, right? So it's important that the team that knows about the end product you want to build, in this case, the website, can take care of the whole thing, right? So I can totally see the value in what you see, in what you're saying, and yeah, I can relate to. So is there I don't know. So people go to you when they want a new website. they go to you when they want an upgrade? Do they go to you, I don't know, in some other cases, or I don't know,
Yeah.
can you recall any other cases they go to your company for?
Yeah, so as you said, sometimes it's, hey, we want our first e-commerce store. That's not the most common, but that does happen, where it's the very first one. Often, I would say it's folks who have an existing store. This is probably the most common. It's folks who have an existing store. It was very basic, kind of put it together themselves, or just with some internal team folks. And now they're coming to us to kind of to kind of reach that next level, and kind of get something that looks a bit more professional, has more features associated with it. That's probably the most common. Other folks will come to us who they have an existing e-commerce store that runs great, it looks great, but they're folks that have pretty complex stores, lots of volume, and they need to have a developer, essentially on staff. They need to have us at arm's reach so that we can help with, adding custom features, tweaking certain things. So kind of doing ongoing maintenance and custom functionality on an ongoing basis. That's pretty common for us to do for folks that have larger stores already, and they come to us for that. And then I'd say the fourth thing that is pretty common is for folks to come to us for conversion rate optimization analysis. They say, hey, our conversion rate is X, we want it to be higher. Can you take a look at our site and do a few things? Can you make recommendations on how we can increase the conversion rate? And then can you let us know how much that would take, how many hours it would take, what the cost associated with that would be? And so for those folks, we kind of have this internal process and report and a proprietary score that we put together where we go through and we do a deep dive analysis of the site. We come back with both a score, suggestions on exactly what to do, and then a breakdown of estimates for those suggestions. And then we tier those into 3 buckets: high priority, mid priority, low priority. So we say, hey, these are the highest ROI things. Here's the mid, here's the low. So you can kind of see, all right, maybe I want to, here's my quote for the high priority. Okay, I just want to attack those for now. Or someone might say, hey, let me attack all of them out of the gate. So that's something we also often do for folks.
Yeah, I mean, since you have a website, you want it to convert, right? So it makes sense that they try to improve their conversion rate, and that's awesome. You can help them with too. And then I know that Shopify has, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know from working with clients, but not from installing them. I know they have a really large library of apps, right? So do you, I don't know, name a few that you recommend
Yeah.
everyone starting a Shopify store, or probably not starting now, but even if they own an existing Shopify store to have?
Yeah, so the app ecosystem on Shopify is fantastic. It's one of the great things about having Shopify is this app ecosystem allows developers to create custom functionality that might not be a part of the native Shopify package, but it can be extended in like an infinite number of ways through apps. And so there's a lot of fantastic ones out there. It's got its own app store for those who aren't familiar. And I would say that so many of these apps, they're not going to be relevant to every single person. It totally depends on your situation. And there's some that are fantastic for different situations. And one of the things that we often do is we kind of build up over time this repertoire and this internal knowledge of, for a certain situation, what's the best app to use and kind of how to use it. And that's something that we find real valuable when folks come to us saying, how do we achieve X? And we kind of know of a certain app and how we would use it for it. But I would say that one that is probably the most universal would be Rewind backups. That one, we have it as part of our process. It's one of the first things that we install on a client store for them when we start working with them, because it just gives you that peace of mind that, hey, if anything goes wrong, everything is backed up. And it goes, basically, Shopify natively will back up certain things for you. Like it'll back up versions of your theme for you, things like that. But there's a lot of stuff that Shopify does not natively back up for you. Things like certain things about order history and customer history and things like that. And so often when folks want to do like bulk changes to a bunch of their products, they're at risk if something goes wrong during that bulk change. It might be a nightmare that they're not able to undo. Whereas if you have the rewind backup, it's just a click of a button and you can roll back any part of the store. So that's one that I think for most folks is like just a huge, risk mitigation app that we see all the time. And if you'd like, I can talk about some others, let me know, but there's others that aren't for everyone, but are really useful in certain situations. So
yeah. By the way, we have done like an episode series for Shopify apps, but probably a year ago. And so I always love to collect more apps and to see, to keep track of them so I can then recommend to clients and to people I know. So I'll definitely check it out because I have never heard of that. I have probably heard of apps for reviews, filters, search features, and some others. Shoppable Instagram and some other stuff, but this one is new to me and it's great. They mentioned that. One thing I will say though, and this is probably as a marketer and not as as a, as an e-commerce owner, from that point of view, the only thing that I mean with the latest changes after the the Apple privacy policies or the iOS 14, last year is that of course there was a big loss in of data, right? And the Shopify, WooCommerce, and all the rest are having a really hard time to track back. I mean, the purchases back to the source. So everything comes from direct, organic, right? This is like, so it's not that good for marketers to track their job, right? So what we do typically for clients is to implement a middleman, an attribution system, such as Triple Whale, Harrows, Rockerbox, there are plenty of them to actually track what comes from where, Google, Facebook, etc. That's like the only thing, like the Achilles heel that I see for all these platforms. I mean, it's not their fault. It's not what they do for a living, right? But, some people take a look at, with it's justified for them because they don't know otherwise. How to do it otherwise? They check out their metrics and statistics, and probably that part of things is not that accurate. I don't know if you have thoughts on that, and if you have had issues with that in the past, or I know it's not your main area, but I don't know
yeah.
if you ever use that.
Yeah, no, that I just wrote it down actually. That's a really interesting kind of tip that you've seen. It's not something that we deal with much on our end. It's pretty rare that we're asked to kind of look into the analytics and the attribution stuff. It has come up occasionally, pretty rarely for us, but occasionally someone will ask us about that. But that's really interesting that you kind of add like a middleman attribution system like that. And that sounds like something that perhaps a lot of our clients could benefit from. So,
yeah, it's always great to make decisions with the right information, and if you have the wrong one, even taking a look at the default version of Google Analytics is not accurate. We have discussed a lot about that a lot, and then in the episodes, it's with people working for some tools too. We wished it was like more accurate, but yeah, it needs a lot of custom configuration and maintenance over time to make that data accurate. So probably this is why these attribution systems or tools exist in the first place. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that for everyone listening. Like if you build a Shopify, WooCommerce, or whatever store, and you're of course running traffic to get sales there, try to look at the metrics probably elsewhere. You can start, as you said before, you can start small, but then when it's time to level up, probably need to trust some other source for the attribution and see what comes from where. Yeah, it's the only thing.
awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. So this has been great. I don't know if you want to mention anything else that I didn't ask you that you think will benefit the audience.
No, it's a good question. I could talk for days just about like things that we see and tips that we have and mistakes that folks make. So I could go on and on forever about it, but yeah, no, nothing nothing I need to get in.
No worries. Any, I don't know, any books or mentors that you have had or that come to mind right now? It could be business books, mindset, productivity, or novels. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I've read a bunch of books on like e-commerce and things more broad, like, user experience design and things like that. And some of the names are escaping me. Most of them are pretty, like technical names to them. But I know that we spent kind of internally, or I personally spent as well, a lot of time doing a lot of research into conversion rate optimization, looking at like reports and studies that have been done on certain things, and kind of seeing like what works, what doesn't. And then, one of the things that we did internally is going beyond those kind of third-party sources where, they had done analysis on X, Y, or Z, and doing some of our own analysis by what we ended up doing is like we put together this list of tons of the top e-commerce brands in the world, household names, and we would go from site to site, diving deep into every aspect of the site, like starting with just the header. It's like, okay, what is the Walmart, Amazon, Staples, Nike, like just all these brands, what do their headers look like? And then just analyzing their headers throughout, all of these companies, and then moving on to, okay, a homepage. How does the homepage laid out? How is the footer laid out? And we did this deep dive to get a really good sense of what works. And one of the reasons I say that is by going to the top folks in the industry and seeing, okay, how do they do just say the header, and looking at all of them, we can assume that these folks have a tremendous amount of data at their disposal and resources at their disposal to optimize every aspect of their site. And so when we look at all of them, we start to see, patterns like, oh, okay, they really start to like show product visuals right away, and that's almost universal. Or, they really, in the footer, they lay out sort of a site map, make it really easy to get just about anywhere from there. Or, they lay out the header in such a way where, stores with very large inventories will emphasize their search feature, where folks with lower inventories they'll try to show all of their inventory, if it's maybe a couple products or one primary product, get that all on the homepage. There's these patterns that we've discovered and that we've detailed, and that was of the things that we use to put together our CRO analysis. Some of it is third-party reports, but a lot of it is from doing that primary analysis ourselves, from a lot of these massive brands, and saying like, okay, all the big folks or 90% are doing this. This seems like it's a great idea because, the data that I'm sure they're getting on it, it works. We can assume that it's working for them. It's going to work for you as well. So yeah, that has been something that has informed me pretty deeply. That kind of goes beyond reading a book, but it's just kind of our own primary research that we've done on this area.
Awesome. It's been great. It was really an interesting conversation for everyone listening. At least it was for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Of course, as always, there will be show notes, and you can check them at fitgrowthmachine.com. You will find them there. Unless you're listening to this on Apple, Spotify, or any other platform, you will see the show notes right there. But otherwise, you can go to the website, see the video version if you didn't watch it, and see the show notes there and all the resources mentioned, for example, the apps or some of the things that Teddy mentioned too. So yeah, where can people go to learn more about you and AIsoft?
Yeah, so you can just visit us on our website. It's aisoft.dev. So DEV, like short for developer. So aisoft.dev. You can reach out there, and we can help you with anything Shopify.
Awesome. It was a pleasure to have you here, Teddy. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brian. It was a pleasure.